Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Youth Man. You know, I've never really been a fan of cherries. Never have liked them. Until recently. Recently, Cherry Amplifier sent me their stereo Cherry Maraschino amplifier. And now, I can say after a month of listening to it, I've got a whole new appreciation for Cherry. So, before we jump into the video, if you're into home theater, audio, and video, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you'll be notified when the next video drops. All right guys, about 2 months ago, Cherry sent me their brand new stereo Cherry Maraschino amplifier. Now this is the larger 60 volt version, which yields 400 watts per channel output into 4 ohms. Now I've had a chance to listen to a lot of music with this amplifier. Now when I first received it, the first thing that really surprised me was the size. This unit is incredibly small. It comes in 2 different components. One component is kind of your main source where you plug everything in the back for your inputs and your outputs to your speakers. And then on the front, you've got your main master volume. You've got a toggle switch for which source you're using, whether it's the front input or the input on the back. And then on the right, you have your power toggle switch. So it's very simplistic as far as design and look and style. And then on the other side would be the actual amplifier itself, the power supply. And so this was really small unit. Now I'm used to having really large amplifiers. So in my living room right now, I have an Acurus A200 amplifier, and it's big and it's boss and it's huge and it's got 200 watts per channel. And so to see Cherry send me this little kind of tiny amplifier, my original thought was, oh, that's cute. But after hooking it up, I can easily say that this has as much power output, maybe even more, than my Acurus A200, which is 200 watts by 2. It easily drove my Klipsch RF7 version 3s to reference level, way beyond what my ears would normally want to listen to in a consistent amount of time. And it has dual 10-inch woofers on each speaker. And so lots and lots of power. So let me just share with you a little bit about the things that I love about this amplifier. Number one, I love the size. I like the size because a lot of guys, especially in the 2-channel world, we don't have a whole lot of cabinet space. And what it allows you to do is you don't have to have a preamp in one space and then maybe below that a separate space for an amplifier. This can easily take up a very small space on a single shelf, and you can even stack it as well to take up even less space, so you may be able to have 2 things on that same shelf. The Cherry Stereo Maraschino amplifier on one side and maybe something else on the other side. And so that's a great benefit, having this in a really small, compact form factor. The second and most important thing that I really like about this is the quality of the sound. This sounds beautiful. It really, really does. I've never really had like a really high-end fidelity, I guess what you would call a hi-fi or a high fidelity 2-channel setup. I've got a nice 2-channel setup, but it's using just a very simple Harman Kardon receiver that I'm using as a preamp, and it's being sent out of there to an Acurus A200. And so it's not super high end, but it's a very nice sounding system, and I've always loved it. Had a really, really great appreciation for that setup. But the Cherry Maraschino has really taken that to a whole new level. And again, it really surprises me being in such a small, compact form factor. Now the Maraschino doesn't come with a lot of bells and whistles. It's really simplistic in design. It's got a standard volume knob, a manual knob, so you don't have a remote. There's not a lot of inputs. There's one set, a pair of outputs on the back. It's just really simplistic in design as far as connectivity and function and features, but what it does excel at is just this beautiful fidelity. Now, I kind of liken it to just this really delicate amplifier that allowed me to hear the music for what it was. The amplifier kind of just got out of the way. Sometimes amplifiers will introduce, and even processors, they'll introduce kind of like their own signature sound to the speakers. And while I was listening to the stereo Maraschino, really what I got was it just kind of disappeared. It just got out of the way and just allowed you to connect with the music, which is really what you want to do when you're listening to 2-channel stereo music. And I believe it did this beautifully. When I was listening to jazz, man, I would just close my eyes and man, the horns would just, just begin to sound and just envelop my surrounding and my hearing and my audio senses, and just everything would just kind of connect me with that music. When it came to things like acoustic guitar, you could hear every little detail of the frets, and when somebody's hand would move along the frets and the strings, you would just capture that. And so there was so much separation of each instrument. It was really, really cool experience. And then the other thing that I really, really liked about this amplifier is even during, I would say, moderate levels. I wasn't cranking it. It was at kind of a moderate level, let's say about 75, maybe 80 decibels. So definitely not real loud. And there was a solid amount of bottom end, guys. I mean, solid amount. Now, one thing about my RF7s is they tend to sound better the louder you drive them. And so a lot of times with my Harman Kardon and my Acurus A200, I would find myself kind of cranking it up a lot louder to really get those woofers just going. But with the Cherry Maraschino, I found myself really enjoying just at a moderate level, and it was just a solid bottom end, not like crazy slam, but just these nice, deep, full notes and bass reproduction. Really, really great sound. And so that was just a nice little kind of touch to the, to this experience. Being able to hear just that really solid bottom end, even at low and moderate levels. Now, how did it sound when you crank it? Oh yeah. My Klipsch will blow you out of the room with a decent amount of power. You don't have to have a whole lot of power. But I can tell you right now, with the Cherry Maraschino, my ears didn't come close to its capacity. My ears gave out way sooner than the amplifier or the speakers did. So my overall experience with the Cherry Maraschino, this is a great unit. It really is. I had never heard of Cherry before they reached out to me and asked me if I would review one of their products. And honestly, guys, I'm really glad I had this experience. It's a solid performer, never once had any issues with it. It sounds beautiful. There's probably only a couple of minor cons, if you want to call them that, negatives per se. The first negative would be it doesn't have a remote. Now, for a lot of 2-channel guys, that's probably not a big deal. If you're listening to vinyl, you're changing the record, each time anyway. You're used to doing that. Me, from the digital age, I get lazy, man. I want to reach for my remote. I want to be able to chill on the couch and be able to adjust that. And so, but what I did find is I was able to stream music into it using the analog inputs, and then being able to control the volume and control the individual songs from my phone. And so that's always, a workaround to that. So again, that's not a major negative. That's just the nature of this 2-channel unit. And the other only small thing that I would recommend is putting some kind of labels on the 2 toggle switches. I know when I first set it up, got it all connected, listened to it for a little bit, and then like a couple of weeks went by and I didn't listen to it again. And so I found myself going back going, okay, which one was the on and which one is the source? And then there's 3 different toggles. There's like on, off, and standby. And then on the other side, there's one input, another input, and then in the middle is mute. And so having some kind of labels on the front, I think would be beneficial to the end consumer, just to make it a no-brainer. Okay, this is where those are positioned. Just looking at it visually, you can't tell, okay, where are the toggles? You kind of have to grab them and go, okay, that one's in the up position. Okay, there's the bottom, there's the middle. And then you have to remember, okay, which side is the power side and which side is the source side. Again, not a big deal. Once you've used this for literally a couple of times, you're going to remember. However, this wasn't my unit. This wasn't one that I'm keeping. This is the manufacturer's, and so I wasn't used to that. And so I would have to go back to the manual and look, oh, okay, this is what each toggle does. Again, not a big deal, but I think it'd be really cool to be able to put just some really fine, really small print, just saying which one is on, which one is off, which one is mute, and then which one is the front input, which one is the back input, and which one is the mute on that side. The only other negative possibly could be the cost. Not everybody's going to want to spend $1,200 or $1,700 on an amplifier, but if you're into two-channel music and you love two-channel music, I think this is a dynamite amplifier, and I definitely would recommend it. The stereo Maraschino amplifier comes in two flavors. You can get it in the 48-volt version, which outputs 125 watts per channel into 4 ohms, or the larger King version, which is a 60-volt version for 400 watts per channel into 4 ohms. The 48-volt model retails for $1,200, while the larger 60-volt retails for $1,700. Cherry Amplifiers also has some products for home theater, and so definitely head over to their website, cherryamp.com. Check them out. Tommy's been a super guy to work with, great guy. Seems like he's got a huge passion for audio, and so definitely chat with him, get to know him, get to know his products, and at least give him a shout. Now, if you're interested in more information about this amplifier, I'll leave a link to it down in the description below to Cherry Amplifier's website. Well, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. As always, you guys be blessed, and we'll catch you in the next video.